A very good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining the program, and it's wonderful to see you again.
Good morning, sir. Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm very well and fantastic. Thank you. Well, Mr. Sheryl, let's delve right into the discussion for this morning. The APC senatorial primaries that took center stage over the weekend, we saw quite a very interesting twist of events where over 40 senators were, ousted or disqualified, and quite a number of them that we did not even expect to come back, made a very massive comeback. And some individuals like, Senator Ned Nwoko sadly lost, their bid to recontest for the office that they have been occupying for the last 4 years. What do you make of the results of the primaries from the weekend?
I think I was one of the people that the processes that climaxed with the primary election itself. I think it was quite audacious. First, the initial list of 47 senators that are intending more of aspirants that were not cleared. It was later updated. About 4 persons were yanked off the list. A new name was inserted, and the whole back and forth yesterday before the eventual 43 names were touted to be the official position of the party for those who were not cleared. I use the word audacious because of the caliber of persons that were on the list, vis-a-vis the conditions required to be cleared. I think the party has some explaining to do, and I think the party owes some of those individuals some explanations. When you have, very respected party leaders who had been privileged to grace both the red and the green chambers.
Yes, sir.
Some of the highly respected members of the party who had served in committees, led some of the initiatives of the party at the national and state levels on that list. Certainly, I think they needed some explanation because all that was released were simply the names, the senatorial district of the individuals, and in front you just get not cleared, not cleared, or a few instances, I think about 3 of them on the list, voluntarily withdrew. That was the beginning of what was to be expected yesterday. Don't forget that that list came very late, and it will be almost impossible for anyone to do so much. And I was very surprised when a few hours, the initial 47 names was updated, and it was changed to 43, like I mentioned, because one of the reasons people have adduced for releasing the names very close, in some instances, the primaries were already ongoing. For instance, I'm aware that the primaries began in Ogun, especially Ogun East, where the incumbent governor emerged as the winner. Their primaries actually started a little past noon, so they began very early. The list of not cleared candidates was actually released to 1. So that tells you that the primaries was already ongoing across some venues before some people, of course, we hear that their names were not part of the people to be in the process. That's the first thing. The second thing, the primaries itself. I'm aware that across the country,
Yeah.
there seems to be a sense of relative peace because there are isolated incidences of violence. The way politics run, the exercise was to be carried out across 100 for 109 senators. The videos we have seen that have surfaced online simply showed you pockets of disturbances, grievances in a very few places. So we have to give it. That means the consensus arrangement might have just scaled through the majority of the places. The few places where consensus, of course, could not hold, according to electoral act, had to go in for the direct primaries. And everyone expects that when you have that type of primaries, there will definitely be dissenting voices. But overall, I want to believe that the party would, if is really serious about winning most of those senatorial seats in the general election, has serious fence mending to do. First, the names that were not cleared, in my opinion, they are people, individuals in their own right across those senatorial districts who can actually rock the boat and reduce the chances of the party emerging victorious in the general election. So that's why I said that the party has a lot of fence mending to do.
Mr. Shononi, let's talk about some senators that, of course, many people believe were stranded due to the anti-defection laws, which came alongside the, you know, Electoral Act of 2026, amended Electoral Act of 2026. What do you say to this? And there were speculations that those lawmakers or politicians that were, party hopping, defecting from opposition parties to the APC with the hopes of, either clinching a re-election ticket or being able to contest for, elective offices in the country will not be able to do so because of some of these laws. But from your assessment, do you think that the the amended Electoral Act, in some way affected the outcome of the APC primaries and will certainly affect the outcome of other primaries of other parties going forward?
I think I beg to differ. First, the amended Electoral Act face, in my opinion, to address a very fundamental issue in our conduct of party primaries. I never imagined one of the skill sets I've added to my repertoire skill as a journalist is to now add cartoon job to my skill set in the industry. And I illustrated barely a few weeks ago how those who were celebrating tweaking or what we call amending the Electoral Act have their hands burnt. And some people actually called because my number is always somewhere at the foot of my cartoons. People called me and were asking what was the reason for. And it just seems like this year I was able to see that the senators who midwife this whole idea would seriously regret it. And what happened last weekend and what happened yesterday seems to have justified that. So on the first side, if the intention was to ensure that the usual suspects, governors and highly powerful individuals hijack the entire process. The reason for narrowing the options to direct and consensus, I think they have failed. That did not work. Having said that, the second thing people have said is that the reason why some of those sessions were inserted or clauses were inserted is to ensure that even if you have lost at the polls, you can't jump to another political party. Yes, in one breath, you can't join due to the number of days that is required for political parties to submit their membership register. But on the flip side, you can't join to contest, but you can actually join to rock the boats of your previous political parties. And that's where I think the All Progressive Congress has to be circumspect. Whereas these groups that have been screened out, these groups who have lost in the direct primaries, or those who felt agreed that the census arrangement did not favor them, they can actually still go to the other political parties, but not as candidates, not as aspirants, because the party also was intentional, we were deliberate to fix their primaries this close to the close of the window for submission of aspirant name. So, in the real sense, no party actually has 21 more days again before conducting his party primaries. But anyone can still become to be any political party, not as a contender, but as someone who will go and join hands with whoever emerges on the other side to rock the boat of whichever party he deems. I think that's where he really did not think it through. A lawyer also had raised an issue that session that forecloses jumping to another political party as a candidate was actually under the direct primary options, that nothing was said or that the law was actually silent about where consensus option had been taken. And somebody, because you are not favored with the consensus within that window, jump to another political party. What becomes the fate of the person if he or she so decide? So those are some of the options on the table for politicians.
Now, Mr. Shonani, the governors of the All Progressives Congress had candidates, that they had thrown forward during the primaries. And if you recall, before all of this started off, some concerned APC members or 7 lawmakers or whatnot had gone to the president, seeking for his support, towards the 2027 election, and also in terms of clinching tickets for different elective offices in the country. And the president had redirected them to the state governors, while clearly stating that their fate solely lies on the state governors and the electorates as well. How domineering or how dominating do you think state governors were in the last primaries that took place over the weekend and even yesterday?
Well, that was our lead story in Daily Courier this morning.
Yeah.
We are very clear about the results garnered. I'm actually speaking to you now from Ekiti State Capital in Ado Ekiti, and I'm here on editorial duty. And the data we collected from across the country, from Abia to Zamfara, across the entire country, had shown clearly there is no single state where the interest of governors actually was anyway blighted. They a free, a free sale with the candidate that they are supporting. All the candidates that were touted to be the governor's candidates, or all the people that they openly threw their support behind, all came out successful. And that tells you some the influence of governors in who gets what actually are not something that would disappear or dissipate in at least not in the short term. We have our hands full. We have to pander of these folks. Why is it so? So because the way virtually all political parties have been designed is that they've been designed around governors. The young parties who were not or that are not designed around governors, the moment a governor comes into it, he begins to call the shot. I've seen that with POD, we've seen that with APM. APM has a national president for many years. At some point, also for many years, he was actually the chairman of IPAC at the national level. But unfortunately, I think a governor or two, they have one full governor and one also in cahoots with them, Shima Kinde of Oyo, the partial member of APM, while Bauchi State Government Governor Bala Mohammed is a full-time member of APM. At the moment they joined the party, they started calling the shots. That's how it's designed. All the funding, all the party machinery, they are absolutely in control of it. And so it will be very difficult. And it's just a few folks who just want to play hand to catch. Our previous editorial works, even on the TBN, I follow some of the reports, showed it very clearly that it will be very difficult for anyone to remain under that scheme arrangement. So it's not unexpected. We would have been surprised. And that was our rider. There were some folks who used to be very dominant in their own right.
Yeah.
Not at maybe if you talk about Edo State, where Pastor Osage Izeyamu used to be a very respected person. On the two occasions he vied for the governorship seat, he lost by the whiskers. So you expected him, if someone did brilliantly well in the Guba election, broader, wider, larger scope, if he comes to pick the senatorial ticket, it will be just a smooth sail for him. We saw yesterday, when you have governors backing a candidate, nothing is smooth. You can also say the same in Delta, where former Deputy Senate President Ubiomo Agege was facing Senator Daphne, who had the support of Governor Sherif. We saw also the results. So it would have been a big if folks had mentioned had won yesterday. And we saw across the country, nobody, not a single person, broke that hard predictive.
Mr. Shonani, let's talk about the power play and dynamics of Nigeria's political scene. When you talk about people like Rochas Okorocha, former Imo State governor, losing his bid to vie for a senatorial seat in his state, you might say it's understandable because he has been away from the political scene for quite some time. But individuals like Senator Ned Nwoko of Delta State being disqualified, what does that say to how much people have faith and trust and general acceptability towards some of these lawmakers? If an individual like Ned Nwoko that has sponsored multiple bills in the red chambers and is championing the Anioma State creation bill could lose, a re-election bid, what exactly is going on in the Nigerian Senate and the entire political landscape in general?
Maybe let's check the fact again. I think Ned Nwoko was not disqualified. He actually contested the primaries and lost.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
he contested the primaries and lost to former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa.
Ifeanyi Okowa, yeah.
Yeah, that's the question you should ask. Who is Ned Nwoko contesting against? He was contesting against a former governor of the state. The incumbent governor actually happens to be his protege. So just use your tongue to count your lips. He knows he was going to lose because he was actually swimming against the tide. It was predictable. Ned's re-election was actually a fait accompli. There's no way it could have happened. It's also the same for ex-governor Rochas Okorocha, that happens also to be a former, had served as a senator at some point. And he's contesting against the incumbent governor, not just Governor Hope as we know him. He's also called Governor General, or the head of the club.
And also the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum.
Yeah. So these are just predictable. We were just in the wings, waiting if there will be any upset. But thinking that Ned Nwoko will win Ifeanyi Okowa in a free and fair contest would have been practically impossible. And that's the truth. Because the structure, like we had both agreed, are strongly in the hands of the governors, and they decide who gets it. So since they are backing the big guys, you can expect that they will ordinarily win. I think we have crossed that bridge already. And everybody the governor is supporting got the note. And it was not unexpected because the structure of the party is skewed in their favor. All right. And that's the truth.
Well, quite interestingly, Mr. Shonani, we'll take a break in just about a few minutes. But let's also take a look at places like Adamawa, where Governor, Amadou Umaru Fintri had clinched the ticket to vie for a senatorial seat. Of course, Governor Fintri is being lauded as one of the best governors that Adamawa State has ever had since 1999 due to some of the massive infrastructural strides that he has been able to bring about and make in the state as well. But generally speaking, how influential do you think that some of the efforts put in by these state governors, during their stay as governors has been in their re-election bid or in their election bid towards leaving the Guber seat to the senatorial seat?
Well, there is a variable that not so many people are talking about. Is the fact that it doesn't matter what you want to say. Governors today have more resources to do more than we have experienced since our return to democracy in 1999. That is a fact. This is not something that we can be debating. It's the truth. My line of job as a journalist also, who is on the road several times, had also shown that most of us have also upped their ante when it comes to infrastructural development. Is that commensurate with the volume of resources at their beck and call? That's the different kettle of fish. But for instance, I was pleasantly surprised when I got the State. I traveled by road from Abuja, getting to Akure, from Akure to Ado-Ekiti, a road that has been impassable for about 2 decades. And I say that as someone who is from that area. Last time I traveled that, I used that route. I was on the road for 1 hour, 30 minutes. I traveled that same route a few days ago, and I spent just about 22 minutes on the road. When I entered the main Ado-Ekiti, during the days of former Governor Fayemi, especially his second tenure, that was a major issue against him. Most of the intra-city roads in the capital are practically dead traps. And I think it is not such a very huge state capital when you compare it to state capitals, to other state capitals, even neighboring Akure. But I was so very surprised that a lot of those bad roads have been fixed. So you give it to some of these governors, they've actually performed, and that definitely will count for something. But there is also a secondary variable that we cannot but highlight. The way the party itself is structured in such a way to give advantages to governor whenever an exercise as this is taking place. From who becomes a member of a national body, which is called the NWC, they have a major say, right? When it comes to committees that will run things, they have a major say. And so when you put all these variables together, during the period of membership registration, they usually midwife it. And so it's like you are writing an exams, okay? Many candidates are sitting for an exam. They now take the exam to the house of one of the students sitting for exams. And so you are an outsider, the moment you walk into the exam hall, psychologically, you already know that the other candidates sitting for that test, sitting for that exam, would already have a negative psychologically, because one of the candidates also is hosting the examination. And so that, for me, is how most of our parties are wired. They are wired to give the governors all the advantages. And of course, it's unexpected because he that pays the piper dictates the tune.
That's correct, Mr. Shewonani. Well, we'll take a break. When we return, just a quick commercial break, we hope to turn our attention to other matters. Very sadly, the abduction of school teachers and students in 2 schools in Oyo State, and the very gruesome murder of a school teacher caught on video by bandits in the same state. Take a break. When we return, the discussion with Mr. Shewonani continues.
In a world constantly in flux, news moves fast, stories collide, opinions swirl. Who helps you make sense of it all?
It's me, Eddie Ekmayan, of course. Every week, I take you beyond the headlines, cutting through the maze, asking the tough questions, and spotlighting the stories shaping our world.
From politics to culture, business to global affairs, community pulse to everything that defines human existence, News Eddies brings you the currents that matter. Stay informed, stay ahead.
Join me, Eddie Ekmayan, for News Eddies, 9 p.m. every Sunday on EDBN TV.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on ADBN TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
You're welcome back to Morning Express. We still have Mr. Shonani on the line with us. Mr. Shona, welcome back to the program. Thank you for staying tuned as well. Well, let's talk about the sad situation in Oyo State. I'm sure you must have been following the story, abduction of students and teachers by bandits, and also the fatal killing of a school teacher that was caught on video, and it's all over social media. There's been a lot of outrage. There's been a lot of anger. There's been a lot of disappointment generally across the country. But how do you react to this situation? It's not the first time we're seeing such a case, but in Oyo State, that is where the surprising effect comes into play.
It was a scary situation that happened in Oyo State last week, Friday. It's such a harrowing experience because Oyo has never been known to be one of the epicenter of that type of breaking, abduction, and attacks. We started seeing that in Kwara, and people have been screaming to the rafters that if nothing is done, the neighboring states are actually not safe. Ondo State had a few of such terror bandit attacks. APC being very close to Ondo State, Edo being neighbor border town to Ondo State, had such experience. But Oyo is not known to have that type of experience until this episode, and it's such a tragic one. It's even more tragic that 4 days after, what we are hearing is that one of them have been beheaded, and they are threatening that if nothing is done to pay the ransoms that have been requested, more people may still go. So that for me is unacceptable, and we expect our government to rise to this occasion before it becomes an international embarrassment, like with the Dachi girl, with the Chibok girl, that it became a global issue, that the United Nations and different world leaders had to start also joining their voices, condemning and asking our government to do the right. It's not too late. We still have some days. It's bad already, but things shouldn't degenerate and become worse to the point that we'll be losing the students and the staff that were abducted one after the other.
Well, quite interestingly, the teachers union in Oyo State had staged a protest, in Ogbomosho precisely, protesting the abduction of their colleagues and also the students, while with placards, chanting, and the anger is there. We have seen school abductions in the Northeast. We have seen school abductions in the Northwest. But school abductions in the Southwest is something that we have never seen, or we have not seen in a very long time. The only abduction we saw, I think, was in Kwara State, sometime early this year or late last year. But when it comes to the sanctity of these schools, the protection of our students, our children, how well do you think the government is handling this? Because, anybody out there knows that schools, hospitals, places of worship are actually out of bound for, conflicts of this nature. At what point do we draw the line and say this cannot be so?
You have raised a very pertinent issue, but just to also add that bandits and terrorists don't operate with the conventions that guide, how do you put it now?
Conflicts?
Conflict of this nature. Right? Bandits, terrorists, they don't follow international conventions that guide conflict. Because what they are doing is simply a very extreme, vicious attack on the citizens and all the other things in the state where they operate. Having said that, you equally highlighted something that should jot our minds. We have seen school abductions in the northeast, the Chibok, the Dapchi, in Sokoto, several other school programs in the northeast. In the northwest, we have seen a number of them in Bauchi, Aziz, and several other places. While in the north central, we've experienced that in Niger State. I think about 3 different schools in Niger State. We've had one in Kwara, but this is the first time it's going to the southwest. And that, for me, is to remind us that when we do nothing, if somewhere, we'll just wake up to discover that if will be everywhere. And that's exactly what we are beginning to see. There were a few attempts during the Chibok girl incidents. We still had the current DG of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala. She was the one who rallied the school protection initiatives. Several millions of dollars were raised to the intent that schools in such conflict zones, we have dedicated security arrangements. Some of them that do not have fences, we began to see government being intentional about fencing them to improve their security. I'm aware that we had a segment of the NSCDC with the assignment to just protect schools. I really can't recollect what nomenclature they are giving, but their goal, the reason why that branch of NSCDC was created was to secure schools. And the police also had added a layer of security to it. They also have a school protection squad. But how far have they fared? They have the manpower to secure all the schools. Bear in mind that instead of feeling insecurity to just a part of the country, like we were celebrating some times ago, we are now having escalating incidences. And my worry is that these escalations have been predicted. Every time election is just months away in Nigeria, we have experienced that increase. We've had studies, scholarly studies, civil society organizations. They have shown us it's a predictable curve. Every time we are closer to elections, these actors ramp up their activities. The number of terrorism attacks will increase, the number of banditry attacks will increase, the number of this type of brazen kidnappings will increase. The data are there to work, but sadly, it seems we are not a nation that reacts positively to our data. just get those data and they pack dust in our various shapes. And that's why we are where we are. Because if you have something as this in Quara, just think a forward-thinking defense architecture have preempted this, plan for something like this, and in the event that it happens, because there are some things that it doesn't matter your level of planning. The US, the UK, Canada still have once in a while this type of attack. What do you do that within 24, 48 hours maximum, you come to the rescue of your citizens? I think these are things that we've not gotten a hold on. And so that should make us ask, these are our intelligence defense institutions, like NIPS in Kuru, like the one in the FCT, where intelligence people are trained. What are we really doing? Because for me, it's not actually just a failure of security. It's primarily first a failure of intelligence. If our intelligence network is top notch, I would actually know about some of these incidences before they happen. So we have to go back and do the right thing, make sure we get our intelligence right, so that the way our security architecture reacts will be preemptive, rather than trying to remedy negativity as when they have already happened.
Mr. Shawani, when it comes to pinpointing the location of these bandits and these terrorists, we have a thing called NIN in Nigeria, which you and I are both aware of. And for you to be able to use a SIM card and it works, you would have to link your NIN to your phone number or to your SIM. If not linked, you won't be able to use it. I won't be able to use it. And these bandits, during the beheading of that school teacher, had recorded the video and posted it on social media via, their social media account. Now, even if you would say, oh, they did not use a conventional service provider in Nigeria that we know of, or network provider that we know of, they probably uploaded it through Starlink and whatnot. Are all bandits using Starlink? Are all terrorists using Starlink in Nigeria? There was a report some couple of weeks ago or days ago about a 400 network of Starlink connection, across the country, where bandits have, a system of communication and the rest. That aside, how do we trace them using IP addresses when they make such posts and upload these videos online?
Everything you said, whereas they are the reality. What it takes to unravel these stealthily or cunningly crafted network is not cast in stone. It's not difficult. A young teenager can actually get this done.
That's correct.
A teenager can get this done, get to the root of all this. But there is a failure in our leadership recruitment. I've been to a number of government agencies, and I'm quite amazed at the type of individuals who run their ICT system, even in our security sector. I've been privileged to work closely with a number of them, and I'm always shell-shocked at how backward some of these guys are. And we have some of the best brains around. I think it was Money Point CEO that delivered a speech, and he was trying to highlight how it's difficult to get some types of skill sets within the country. And the noise was everywhere. And I was just speaking to a friend that, for instance, you are a tech guy, and some of the coding companies will pay you maybe 1.5 million a month, and you now got a job with maybe NIA, or you got a job with the DSS or any of these our intelligence agencies, and your pay every month, no matter how good it is, as a young graduate, when you are coming in, you'll be placed on a salary of, say, maybe 200, 250,000. Who takes? Nobody, no, nobody in that industry will stoop low to receive that type of pay. So it means we must find a way to retrain our folks to get things done. Now, back to the matter of urgency in our hands. How do we rescue these folks? Then there's nothing wrong to actually get experts who can help us do this job. You've asked people to register register NIN. Even if you are buying Starlink, there are still codes there that makes it very easy to trace the origin of some operation. So that's why I said it's not cast in stone. It's just that I don't see the will to get things done. Because if we have the will, these children and the staff should not be in the dens of these bandits and kidnappers the fourth day running.
All right, Mr. Shonani, let's move on to the comments of Mr. President, who had specifically said that the bandits responsible for this attack will face the full wrath of the law, assuring that the security agencies are trailing the abductors of the school children and the teachers as well, and also the mothers of that Oyo school teacher. But Mr. Sharon, let's be realistic. The president has made such comments time and time again. The government has made such comments whenever there is an attack, whenever there is an abduction. Government says we are on their trail, we are mapping out a way to rescue the students, blah, blah, blah. However, why not forestall the incident from happening in the first place? How did we get to a point where schools are no longer sacred? How did we get to a point where school teachers are slaughtered, filmed and caught on camera and posted on social media, and the country is not thrown into a state of mourning? How did we become so desensitized? How did we become so out of touch with reality to the point where we feel like these things are now normal to the average Nigerian?
Many questions you have asked, but it takes us back to how did we get to the point where we are so disconnected with conscience that things as this happen, and we practically as a nation no longer empathize with victims of attacks as this. How did we get to this point? We got to this point when we chose as a people to play politics rather than governing our citizens. How did we get to this point? We got to this point when lives will be lost. Instead of facing it squarely, we begin to blame each other. How did we get to this point? We got to this point when citizens go back to the polls and elect the same people who failed them and had refused to give them the security, just normal environment for decent living to thrive. I'm just wondering, what would be the psychological state of the remaining students in that school? I'm just wondering. I've been trying to get a report to have an idea if schooling is actually still going on in that particular school. I've not been able to get any report because psychologically, I don't see the other teachers resuming when a huge chunk of the number of staff have been carted away by bandits. A huge population of the students cannot come to class because they are in bandits then. So that tells you how low we have actually gone. And this is just coming to the forefront because it's now spreading to a region where we have never experienced something as this. For folks in the northwest, folks in the northeast, folks in some part of the north central, is a regular occurrence that sometimes it really does not find any voice in the news because it's overcome by a lot of activities. Aren't you surprised that some of the kidnappings in the northwest and in the northeast these days usually get some of the stories days after? Days after.
Why is that so, Mr. Sharon? You are in the media space as well, and you're also a publisher of the Daily Courier. Why do you think this is so, and why do you think this lag or delay happens?
Yeah, many reasons, because they are too frequent. That which one do you even want to follow? Let me give you an instance. Just this last weekend, we had incidents that happened in Borno. We had another incident in Yobe. We had the Oyo State incident. So all the focus is now in Oyo State, and we forgot that somewhere in in Yobe, over the same weekend, we had an attack on a military formation. We lost several military guys. Some people in the village also, about 15 of them. Not just 1, 2, not 3, 15 of them. And it's practically everyone will just move on. And before you know, days later, somewhere in Zamfara, some people have been kidnapped. So it's so frequent, and that you just report. For instance, nobody wants to read your paper as a journalist. If you wake up and all the story in your paper is just about kidnappings and all of that. So that's sadly our reality. And it tells you that our government must find a way. It's first a failure of intelligence. We must get our intelligence right. But we are now in a season of politicking. And even when politicians know that this thing happened, they will go to any extent to ensure that even the news does not filter out, because it can jeopardize their chances. Politicians for who they are. They like negative data so that they can use it against their perceived antagonists at all. If we get to that point, that's not what I see in many other clients. When a negative thing happens, politicians from across the divide quickly brainstorm, talk about ideas, share notes about what should be done to ensure that we don't have a repeat of the same. But here it's not the same. When there's a kidnap, somebody in ABC, somebody in NDC, somebody in other opposition party quickly want to score a point with the negativity. And sometimes you don't see any empathy in the press statements that they release. Their focus is to attack the government. And if it happens again in a state that is not run by the federal government, you see the reaction from the federal government take days. And so we need that collaboration to be able to do anything by intelligence architecture. Because the moment your intelligence fails, this is always what you'll be facing. Instead of preempting, you'll be remedying insecurity.
Mr. Sharon, let's talk about the governor of Oyo State himself, Governor Seyi Makinde. Sometime last year in July 2025, there was a reportage in the news that the Oyo State government had procured a 7.7 billion naira surveillance aircraft to combat insecurity. Now, of course, during the governor's press briefing yesterday following the killings, abductions, and the killing of that teacher, he said the surveillance aircraft was at the Air Force Base in Lagos. Now, he went on to say that the Chinese engineers who will assemble it came in 3 days ago and will need 2 weeks to do the job. Now, the question is, if this was purchased in July of 2025 and close to 1 year after, it's still at the Air Force Base in Lagos. what exactly are we doing? Why is 7.7 billion naira just sitting and wasting away in Lagos for over 1 year? Meanwhile, the governor is just coming out to tell people that the Chinese engineers arrived 3 days ago. Why didn't they arrive last year? Why didn't they arrive 6 months ago or 3 months ago or even a month ago? What exactly is going on with the Oyo State government and transparency?
Well, I really don't know how to situate this type of choices they make as a government. Some people had actually alleged that the reason why we love the billions, the $1 million is because that would give a bigger pot to play from. And I think I agree. If you invest in the very spot-on technology for fighting like we have experienced in the ongoing, major wars, the Russia-Ukraine, the war that have now been stopped, at least if you want to use the right word, have been paused between US, Israel against Iran. I think there's a global shift from spending billions and hundreds of millions to focusing on, simple technologies that will help get a safe job. Because the first thing about intelligence is that you must be able to get the information at the right time. The moment that timing is missed, what you have on your hands is what we're getting now. Insecurity everywhere. So if you purchase an attack, what's it called, a surveillance aircraft, and a year later, you are talking about people coming to, it tells you how unserious we are as a people. And the excuse that, for instance, the federal government are always giving, when we have such type of announcement made flippantly, and years later, people are asking, but you promised there will be drones. You promise you are going to be. They now tell you that they made that announcement. The manufacturers will now have to take XYZ time before it's now delivered to Nigeria. And that's why nations are now beginning to make choices that will allow them to go for things like simple drones that will still get the same job done. And these are drones that some of them are actually off the shelf. That is, you are not going to meet the manufacturer, and the manufacturer tells you we roll this out after 2 years, 5 years. No, something you can go, assess the type of job you do, you get guaranteed. You get people who will come and train your local officials here, and you bring them deploy immediately. That means it's something within 4 to 5 weeks window can be done. That's the step that nations are taking to secure. We are still stuck in the old ways of doing things because of the wrong intentions behind the choices we are making. I think that, for me, against it tells us about the crop leaders that we have in this country.
All right, Mr. Shononi, we must thank you so much. It's been very interesting having these discussions with you here on Morning Express. We appreciate your time and also for your insight on the program.
Thank you for always having me. Always a delight to be on the show. Have a beautiful day ahead.
All right.